Welcome to this new video. Today, we'll explore a profound and enlightening topic based on the precious teachings of the great spiritual master, Paramahansa Yogananda. Together, we'll discover how every pain and sensation in our body is not a random occurrence, but a secret message from our soul. If you're ready to discover the hidden language of your body and transform pain into a spiritual guide, this video is for you. I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss future content dedicated to inner growth. Let's begin this journey together. Have you ever felt your body whisper to you in ways you couldn't ignore, even when you tried to push it aside? A strange heaviness in your chest, a sudden pain in your stomach, a tiredness that no amount of sleep seemed to cure. Many of us are quick to dismiss these moments as random, as if the body were simply malfunctioning, like a machine with a worn-out part. But the body is not a machine, and you are not a mass of organs acting idly. The great spiritual master, Paramahansa Yogananda, taught that our physical being is intertwined with our soul. Every sensation and discomfort carries a meaning, as if a coded message emanating from the hidden depths of the self. Imagine this for a moment. You're rushing through life, responsibilities weighing on you, decisions weighing on your mind, emotions surging beneath the surface. Suddenly, your head throbs, your shoulders tense, or your breathing becomes shallow. You reach for a pill, a coffee, a distraction. What if that pain wasn't a problem to be erased, but a voice demanding to be heard? What if your body wasn't betraying you, but guiding you? What if every sensation was part of a dialogue between your conscious self and the parts of you that remain invisible, unexpressed, and unrecognized? Most people never pause long enough to ask themselves these questions. They're taught to see pain as the enemy, something to be suppressed as quickly as possible. But Yogananda believed the body doesn't malfunction without purpose. He saw human beings as living reflections of a deeper reality, where body, mind, and spirit are a continuous flow of energy. When the flow is blocked by an unexpressed emotion, an unresolved grief, a fear we refuse to face, the body doesn't remain silent. It speaks in the only way it knows how, through tension, illness, through a discomfort that demands attention. Think about the last time you had a pounding headache. Was it just dehydration or poor posture? Or did it happen during a time when your mind was racing, taking on more than it could handle, juggling worries that never seemed to stop multiplying? When the mind refuses to rest, the body often forces the break we deny ourselves. That tight band on your forehead isn't just biology. It could be your being crying out for quiet, urging you to step back from the storm of thoughts and surrender to peace, even if only for a moment. Our ancestors understood this in ways we've forgotten. They spoke of the body as a vessel of the spirit. Each part carried a symbolic meaning. Each ailment carried a significance that went beyond the physical. Yogananda echoed this wisdom, reminding us that unexpressed emotions don't vanish. They transform. Swallowed anger doesn't dissolve. It hardens in the muscles. The denied pain doesn't go away. It presses on the chest until breathing becomes difficult. The buried fear doesn't die. It twists in the stomach, knotting the viscera The body becomes the canvas on which the soul paints what the mind refuses to see. Yet, in our modern world, we've grown accustomed to running from these signals. We drown them in entertainment. We medicate them without thinking. We keep moving so fast that stillness seems unbearable. But the truth is, ignoring body language never erases it. What goes unheard as a whisper eventually turns into a scream. A small ache becomes a recurring pain. A passing tiredness becomes months of exhaustion. A tightness in the chest becomes a chronic condition. The longer we silence the messenger, the louder he will cry out. But there is another way. Instead of treating symptoms as random cruelty, we can approach them as a guide. We can learn to listen, to decode, to ask ourselves not just, how can I fix this? But what does this mean? When you feel tension, when the pain persists, when illness strikes without a clear cause, you can pause and ask yourself, what truth within me is waiting to be recognized? Yogananda often reminded his students that the soul is constantly seeking expression. If it can't speak through intuition or emotion, it will speak through the body itself. Your body is not your enemy. It is the most loyal companion you will ever have. It has carried you from your first breath to this very moment, making your heart beat nonstop, keeping you going without complaint, keeping your secrets in its tissues and your untold stories in its bones. What feels like pain could actually be a protection, a way to keep you aligned, a way to force you to face what you've been avoiding. When you start seeing pain this way, the world changes. A headache is no longer just an annoyance. It's a signal to slow down. A knot in your stomach isn't just a digestive problem. It's anxiety demanding release. A heaviness in your chest isn't a senseless pressure. It's pain crying out for tears. This doesn't mean we should ignore medicine or the wisdom of doctors. Yogananda himself respected the role of healing in all its forms. But he also insisted that true healing requires more than treating the outward symptom. He asks us to look within, to uncover any emotional, mental, or spiritual imbalance that may have taken root. Otherwise, we're just pruning the leaves of a tree while ignoring its roots, and the same pain will grow again, over and over again. Now, imagine if you could start seeing your body in this light. Imagine waking up tomorrow, and instead of fearing the pain in your shoulders, you asked yourself, what burden have I taken on that isn't mine to bear? Imagine noticing the tension in your jaw and asking yourself, what words have I swallowed that needed to be said? Imagine feeling the restlessness in your legs and asking yourself, what new life path am I resisting? By shifting from frustration to curiosity, you transform pain into a teacher, discomfort into a guide. Yogananda once said that the soul always desires to be free and will use every channel to bring our attention back to truth. If ignored in thought, it will arise in dreams. If rejected in dreams, it will surface in feelings. If buried in feelings, it will appear in the body. The path to healing is not to silence these expressions, but to listen with humility and courage. Think about the tension that often builds in the neck and shoulders. We tend to think it's the result of long hours at a desk, poor posture, or too many sleepless nights. But stop for a moment and consider how the body speaks in symbols. The neck is the bridge between the mind and the heart. It's the gateway where thought meets feeling, where vision must align with expression. When this bridge is rigid or burdened, it often reflects a deeper rigidity within us. Perhaps you're holding on too tightly to an idea that no longer serves you. Perhaps you feel trapped in a situation without freedom of choice. Perhaps you're carrying responsibilities that belong to others as much as to yourself. Your shoulders, in particular, reveal stories that words rarely admit. They are the shelves where invisible burdens are stored. How many times do you hear the phrase, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? Language isn't accidental. It stems from truths our ancestors intuitively recognized. When you shoulder the burdens of family, friends, work, and expectations, your shoulders buckle under the strain. Some of us become so accustomed to this carrying it all posture that we forget to ask ourselves a simple question: who carries us? Paramahansa Yogananda taught that strength is not measured by how much you can bear without wavering. True strength is the wisdom to release what is not yours, to share the burden with others, to trust in a higher power that does not require endless struggle, but invites surrender. When your shoulders ache, the pain might tell you it's time to put something down. Imagine, just for a moment, closing your eyes and visualizing the weight you've been carrying as a heavy stone. Imagine gently placing it on the ground. Notice the difference in your body when you're no longer holding it. Even a single breath without that invisible burden can remind you that life wasn't designed to be endured alone. Now, let's move on to the chest, that vast space where the breath lives. The lungs and heart are not just organs, but symbols of openness, of love, of pain, of the rhythm of the spirit. When grief goes unexpressed, when tears are swallowed, the chest becomes a locked chamber. You feel an inexplicable pressure, as if the air itself has become heavy. Many describe this feeling during times of profound loss or heartbreak. This is no coincidence. The body is translating the unshed tears into physical form. Yogananda explained that grief, when unexpressed, becomes a burden on the heart. But grief released through tears, prayer, and honest acknowledgement becomes the gateway to compassion and renewal. Have you ever noticed how a sigh escapes you when the day seems overwhelming? That sound isn't meaningless. It's your body trying to exhale emotions that words can't contain. Every breath is a conversation between the visible and the invisible. Shallow breathing signals fear and repression, as if you're trying to live in hiding. Deep, steady, and full breathing signals presence, acceptance, and trust in life. To breathe fully is to live fully. To hold one's breath, consciously or unconsciously, is to hold oneself back from life itself. Now consider the stomach, that sensitive center often called the second brain. It's the seat of instinct, intuition, and emotional digestion. When you're anxious, worried, or incessantly thinking, the stomach becomes a battlefield. Ulcers, nausea, cramps, indigestion. These are the echoes of unresolved thoughts. How many times have you heard, I had a gut feeling, and then realized it was true. The stomach doesn't just process food, it processes truth. When you ignore your inner knowing, when you try to rationalize your soul's instincts, the gut rebels. It twists and turns because it knows what the conscious mind tries to deny. Paramahansa Yogananda spoke of the body as an energy field. When the current of life flows freely, there is harmony. When fear, doubt, and constant worry interrupt that flow, imbalance appears. The stomach quickly reveals this disturbance because it is sensitive to every emotional storm. You can eat the healthiest diet, drink clean water, rest well, and still suffer from intestinal problems if unresolved anxiety lingers within you. Because the body can't lie. It always tells the truth, even when the conscious self refuses to admit it. And what about the back? The strong column that supports us every step of the way. The lower back, in particular, speaks volumes about security and survival. Notice how many people develop lower back pain during times of financial hardship, uncertainty, or when they feel unsupported by those around them. The back is a symbol of stability. When life feels unstable, when the foundation beneath you seems to be shaking, your back reflects that fear. Every twinge, every pain can be your body whispering that you're carrying too much weight or that you're unsure how you can move forward. The phrase, carrying the weight of the world on your back, wasn't a coincidence. It's a reflection of how intimately language mirrors the relationship between mind and body. When your back hurts, it's often not just a pulled muscle, but a reminder that you've reached the limits of what you can bear alone. Yogananda urged his followers to recognize that true support doesn't always come from effort, but from alignment with divine energy, from the faith that life provides when we trust. Feeling physically unsupported often means feeling disconnected from this deeper source of support. And then there are the legs, the pillars that carry us into the future. Weakness in the legs, pain in the knees, heaviness in the feet. These are often signs of hesitation. Life always pushes us to move forward, to grow, to expand beyond the comfort of the known. But the unknown scares us. And when fear resists the next step, your legs often reflect that inner resistance. They tremble when you doubt your direction. They ache when you stay stuck in one place too long. They feel heavy when you're reluctant to enter a new chapter in your life. Yogananda often spoke of courage as the willingness to trust the path ahead, even when you can't see all the steps. When your legs falter, ask yourself, what future am I afraid to enter? What part of me resists progress? By facing this truth, you release fear's grip and restore strength to your foundation. Finally, consider the skin, that delicate boundary between self and the world. Rashes, breakouts, and irritations often appear when we struggle with shame, insecurity, or fear of being judged. The skin is our most outward expression. The face we show others. When we feel exposed, vulnerable, or uncomfortable with how we're perceived, our skin reacts as if echoing our internal conflict. It becomes red, sensitive, and inflamed, reflecting the burning emotions within us. Your skin speaks when your soul feels vulnerable. It's a reminder that boundaries aren't just emotional, but physical as well. Taking care of your skin isn't just about applying creams and treatments, but asking yourself, how do I feel about being seen? Am I hiding my true self? Or am I willing to face the world as I am? When you surrender to self-acceptance, your skin often follows, glowing with serenity instead of flaring in protest. Every part of the body carries its own symbolic language. Pain is not random. Illness is not meaningless. Every sign is a message encoded with truth, urging you to pause, reflect, and listen. Yogananda's wisdom was clear. Healing does not consist in silencing the symptom, but in uncovering the hidden story behind it. Think for a moment about the way children express themselves. A child cries loudly when sad. He screams when angry. He falls asleep when tired. Their little bodies are pure expressions of their emotions, unfiltered and honest. There's no separation between what they feel and how they show it. But as we grow up, we're taught to suppress, to hide, to keep ourselves composed, no matter what storms rage within us. We're told to be strong, to be composed, to be unperturbed. Yet the energy of those unexpressed feelings never fades. Energy never disappears. It only transforms. When anger is silenced, it can return as tension in the muscles or fire in the stomach. When sadness is denied, it can press on the chest until every breath becomes heavy. When fear is buried, it can tremble through the legs or harden into knots in the intestines. The more we repress, the more the body must express itself on our behalf. This is why so many people collapse after a major emotional shock. Their mind and body have carried too much weight, and what could not be consciously processed becomes physical. Paramahansa Yogananda often spoke about the dark side of human nature, those rejected and unacknowledged parts of ourselves that we prefer to keep hidden. He explained that what we refuse to face within ourselves will eventually emerge in another form. The body becomes the canvas where the shadow paints its truth. Pain, then, is not a punishment. It's a revelation. It's the moment when the invisible forces of your inner life come forward and insist on being noticed. The paradox is that healing often begins not when you fight the symptom, but when you stop fighting altogether. A headache isn't just pain. It's a call to slow down, to quiet the mind, to release the burden of constant thinking. Neck stiffness isn't simply bad posture. It's a signal to loosen rigid thinking, to let go of control, to allow yourself to move with more flexibility. The tightness in your chest isn't a purely physical problem. It's a cry to process your grief, to allow yourself to feel, to let the tears you've held back for too long flow. Every discomfort brings with it both a problem and an opportunity. The problem is the pain itself. The opportunity is the transformation that becomes possible when you listen. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly sat with your pain instead of running away from it? When was the last time you asked your body, what do you want me to know? Most people never do this because they fear the answer. Listening could mean resting when the world tells you to work harder, Listening could mean facing truths you've been avoiding. Truths about grief, anger, dissatisfaction. Listening could mean changing your life, and change is scary. Yet this is exactly what the soul desires: to be recognized, to be made conscious. Healing, in the sense described by Yogananda, is not about erasing disease. It's about integration. It's about welcoming the parts of yourself you've tried to bury, bringing them to light, and giving them space. It's about allowing your emotions to be felt rather than silenced. Cry when tears come. Rest when your body cries out for quiet. Speak when silence overwhelms you. Allow laughter to emerge when joy arises unexpectedly. These simple acts of honesty free the body from the burden of carrying what the mind refuses to accept. Imagine for a moment that your body isn't just a physical structure, but a loyal friend. A friend who has walked beside you since birth, protecting you, warning you, guarding your secrets without judgment. This friend has tried to tell you the truth you refuse to admit. Whispering through exhaustion, screaming through pain, pleading through illness. Would you ignore such a friend? Or would you sit down, listen, and finally understand? Pain is that friend. It may be relentless. It may be uncomfortable, but it's not against you. It's guiding you. It's showing you where you're out of balance, where you've been hiding from yourself, where you've been carrying too much weight. There's a freedom that comes when you stop fearing the symptoms and start asking yourself, what lesson lies there? Back pain might teach you to share burdens. Chest pain might urge you to grieve and let go. Your stomach might tell you to stop dwelling on unresolved worries. Your legs might remind you that fear of progress is holding you back. Each message, once understood, brings you closer to wholeness. This wholeness is not perfection. It is not a life without pain. It is a life in which every part of you is welcomed, integrated, and recognized. Yogananda often taught that what remains hidden within us has the power to control us. But when it's brought to the light of awareness, it loses its grip and transforms into wisdom. The body is one of the most direct paths to this awareness because it remembers everything the mind tries to forget. Until you acknowledge it, it will continue to speak louder and louder. Illness is not a betrayal. Pain is not the enemy. They are invitations to look within, to face what you've been avoiding, to live in truth rather than denial. Yogananda believed that the soul is always guiding us toward growth. While it must use suffering as a teacher, the question is not, why am I suffering? The question is, what is my suffering trying to teach me? Imagine waking up one morning and noticing the same old back pain. The tension that greets you before the day even begins. Your first instinct might be frustration. You might think, why is this happening again? Why is my body failing me? But what if you instead embraced it with curiosity? What if you asked yourself, what are you trying to show me? Suddenly, pain shifts from an enemy to a messenger. It becomes less about suffering and more about discovering the hidden dialogue between your body and your soul. Most of us live in such constant distraction that we rarely hear this dialogue. We're buried under schedules, deadlines, and endless noise. The phone rings, the messages pile up, the requests multiply, and through it all, our bodies keep trying to speak. A tightness in the chest when stress builds too much. A turmoil in the stomach when decisions seem uncertain. A heaviness in the legs when the path ahead is unclear. The body is patient, but also persistent. If whispers are ignored, they become shouts. If shouts are ignored, they become screams. Yet we continue to push forward until life itself forces us to stop. Paramahansa Yogananda often reminded his students that the human being is not composed of separate parts sewn together, but is a single flow of energy and consciousness. The mind, emotions, and body are interwoven like the threads of a single fabric. When the fabric frays in one place, the whole is affected. He explained that ignoring the inner life in favor of a constant external search creates imbalance, and imbalance always seeks correction. Sometimes the correction is gentle, a small signal to slow down. Sometimes it's drastic, a collapse that forces you to confront what you've resisted. Think of how many people find themselves bedridden from exhaustion after years of refusing to rest, or how unresolved grief turns into months of inexplicable illness, or how a fear buried for decades suddenly emerges as chronic pain. None of this is coincidence. It's the psyche that insists that what's hidden be brought to light. The body becomes the final gateway when every other message has been ignored. But here's the truth that many forget. Pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to awaken you. It's the alarm bell that tells you something inside you needs attention. Hitting the silent button on that alarm with endless distractions or medication alone means missing the opportunity for deeper healing. Yogananda believed that the body, if listened to with compassion, can guide us back to balance, harmony, and truth. Imagine sitting in silence with your eyes closed. Place your attention on the area of your body that hurts the most. Instead of resisting, breathe into it. Silently ask, "What do you want me to know?" Don't demand an answer. Simply listen. Perhaps an old memory surfaces. Perhaps an emotion you hadn't recognized rises to the surface. Perhaps you realize that you've taken on other people's responsibilities that aren't yours. In that moment, the pain becomes more than physical. It becomes a bridge to understanding. This listening practice isn't intended to replace medicine or deny the reality of the illness. Aim to complete healing with awareness. It's about remembering that symptoms aren't isolated incidents, but part of a larger conversation between your outer life and your inner truth. Ignoring that conversation means remaining half alive, disconnected from the wisdom of your being. Embracing it means entering into a deeper intimacy with yourself. Think about the times you felt anxious before telling the truth and how your throat tightened. Or the times you stayed in a job or relationship long after your spirit was ready to leave and your body became restless and heavy. Or the seasons of life when you forced yourself to shoulder endless responsibilities and your shoulders tightened with pain. These are not coincidences. They are the language of the body echoing the truths of the soul. Yogananda often taught that the divine speaks not only through scriptures or silence, but also through the very fabric of your life. The body, mind, heart, and spirit are all instruments of communication. Honoring them means honoring the presence of the sacred within you. When you listen to your body, you're not giving in to weakness. You're engaging in a dialogue with the deepest wisdom you possess. Now, imagine a life where, instead of running away from every discomfort, you approached it with curiosity. Instead of numbing your emotions, you gave them voice. Instead of treating your body like a stubborn machine, you welcomed it as a wise companion. How different would your days be if every pain were not a curse, but a guide? How different would your nights be if, instead of fearing fatigue, you allowed it to teach you rest, trust, and renewal? The truth is, most of us spend years trying to escape our bodies. We overcome exhaustion. We silence the pain. We deny the grief. But the body cannot be left behind. It moves with us every moment, patient yet implacable in its truth. The more we ignore it, the louder it speaks. The moment we begin to listen, however, something changes. Healing begins not as an instant miracle, but as a gradual unfolding. Pain eases when acknowledged. Tension eases when understood. The more we ignore it, the louder it speaks. The moment we begin to listen, however, something changes. Healing begins not as an instant miracle, but as a gradual unfolding. Pain eases when acknowledged. Tension eases when understood. Illness becomes less frightening when it's seen as part of a journey rather than a senseless punishment. This is the path Yogananda described as integration, living not in fragments, but in wholeness, allowing body, mind, and spirit to work together rather than against each other, bringing the unconscious to consciousness so that nothing remains to fester in silence. When you live this way, pain becomes less of an enemy and more of a teacher. Discomfort becomes an invitation to grow. Even suffering takes on meaning when viewed through the lens of awareness. There's a reason why silence is unbearable for many of us. In stillness, the voice of the body grows stronger, and truths we've ignored begin to surface. Paramahansa Yogananda taught that the soul doesn't punish, it guides, and it will use every available channel to reach us. Sometimes it speaks through intuition, sometimes through dreams. And when these are ignored, it speaks through the body. Illness becomes the final messenger when every whisper of the spirit has been ignored. But here lies a secret grace. If the body is the stage on which our unconscious plays its stories, then every symptom can also become a gateway to awakening. Pain is rarely comfortable, but it is precise. It indicates, signals, reveals what the mind cannot yet admit. The invitation is not to obsess over the body or endlessly analyze, but to listen with humility. The body says, rest, and you learn the value of stillness. The body says, let go, and you learn the art of letting go. The body says, change, and you face the fear of transformation. In any case, the body is not an obstacle to the spiritual path. It is the path itself. Yogananda described human life as a journey toward harmony, where consciousness, energy, and matter align. When that harmony is broken, conflict emerges first in the mind, then in the emotions, and finally in the body. But all is not lost. Even in sickness, there is wisdom. Even in weariness, there is truth. The soul is infinitely patient, willing to repeat its message in ever stronger tones until we finally hear. The question isn't whether your body is speaking to you, but whether you're willing to pause long enough to understand. Consider what it means to live differently. Instead of fearing every discomfort, you might welcome it as a sign. Instead of resenting your body, you might honor it as the most loyal companion you'll ever have. Instead of silencing the pain, you might ask it what it's teaching you. This change isn't a small one. It's the difference between moving through life as a victim of random suffering and walking the path as a student of your own soul. One day, looking back, you might realize that the turning points in your life weren't the easy days, but the moments when your body refused to let you continue as before. The headache that forced you to slow down may have saved you from collapse. The heaviness in your chest may have led you to finally process grief and rediscover love. The exhaustion that stopped you may have guided you toward rest and renewal. What you once saw as obstacles were actually road signs, gently but firmly directing you toward the self you were destined to become. The journey isn't about erasing pain, but about recognizing its purpose. Healing doesn't always mean a cure in the medical sense. Sometimes it means reconciling your emotions, your past, the truths you've long resisted. The body becomes lighter, not only when the illness goes away, but when the denial dissolves. It is then that the soul can shine more freely through the form it inhabits. So, as you reflect on your story, remember this. Your body has faithfully carried you through every season, every joy, and every pain. It has never abandoned you. Even when you abandoned it, its language may be unfamiliar, but it has never stopped speaking. The next time discomfort arises, resist the urge to instantly silence it. Instead, breathe. Ask gently, "What are you telling me?" Trust that an answer will come, not always in words, but in clarity, in calm, in that quiet awareness that arises when body and spirit are finally aligned. Yogananda believed that every life is guided by an invisible hand, a divine current that pushes us toward greater wholeness. Pain, in this light, is not cruelty, but compassion in disguise. It is the soul insisting that you are meant for more than numb survival. You are meant for awareness, growth, freedom. When you learn to listen deeply, you discover something extraordinary. Your body has never been a barrier to your spiritual journey. It has always been the path itself, leading you home. We have reached the end of this inner journey. I hope Paramahansa Yogananda's words have shed new light on how you perceive your body and its messages. Remember, every sensation is an invitation to listen and experience profound healing. If this video was helpful, please like it to support the channel and share it with anyone you think would benefit. Let us know in the comments which message your body is telling you to listen to starting today. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video.